المشتاق لا تنمي هذه أنوار ذي سلمي عن قليل أنت في الحرم عند خير العرب والعجم
قف أمام القابر بالأدب
أيها المشتاق لا تنمي هذه أنوار ذي سلمي عن قليل
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق الفاتحة بجنس تعلم الفاتحة بجنس تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير ونفع والدفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله والدعاء للهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى وعلى ما نوى من سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم على مسألة صالحين وعلى ما نوى المؤلف أبي أحمد زين الحبشي الحاج أحمد سبحانه وتعالى الحبشي بأن ضيق في نياتهم وأعمال في أعمالهم وأخلاقنا في أخلاقهم وطريقتنا في طريقتهم بالقبول وإلى حضرة النبي سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم بسر الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين آمين. محمد الحمد اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراط المستقيم وعلى آله وصحبه حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. So inshallah last week I was cut off. Well, I think we only managed to enter into the first integral of fasting, which is the intention. Right? The second of which is to abstain from everything that breaks the fast. Okay, so I was about to go into the intention, and there was some problem with the internet, and then I thought it'd be better to just leave it at that, and then we continue from there today, inshallah. Okay, so okay, so that's where we are picking up from today. Okay, so among the integrals, the two which I just mentioned, making a daily intention during the preceding night. Okay. قال رضي الله عنه منه النية لكل يوم وتبيتها من الليل. So, the words of Habib, the author Habib Ahmad bin Zain al-Habshi. Okay, so meaning from amongst the requirements of the fast or fasting is that one observes its integrals. Right, one has to pay attention to its integrals and practice is put into practice the integrals, the rukun, the arkan. Right. So in this case is the intention of fasting. So with regards to the integrals, with regards to intention, there are two sets of rulings. There are different rulings for the obligatory fast, the wajib fast, and different rulings for the supererogatory fast, the sunnah. Okay, the sunnah fast. Since the rulings differ. Okay, the rulings of the intention, right, relevant to that relate to the intention, differ for these two kinds of fasts. Okay, so for obligatory fasts, Okay, there are two conditions of validity. Two conditions which must be fulfilled for the intention to be valid. Okay, obligatory fast, for example, Ramadan, or vows. You know, if one makes a vow, I vow that if such and such thing happens, then I will fast so many days, or you know, so that is also an obligatory fast, or a make-up fast, a qada for a fast, for a wajib fast that was missed, right? So with regards to these kinds of obligatory fasts, there are two conditions. First of all, it is obligatory to make the intention between the Maghrib of the preceding night and the entry of Fajr on the day of the fast. Okay, so if one makes the intention just before Maghrib on the night before, it's not valid. It's only valid from the night before. Okay, so these are fasting is one of the exceptions to the conditions of validity for the where the condition of validity for the fast is for the intention is that the intention does not need to be made at the exact time one is about to begin to perform the action, right? So otherwise, for prayers, for example, we have to make the intention at the takbiratul ihram. For wudu, when we are washing the first obligatory part or limb or face rather. Yeah, but for fasting, we are able to make the intention from beginning from the Maghrib of the previous night, because of the difficulty of trying to ascertain or determine when exactly, you know, the exact point of entry into Fajr the next day is. Okay. Okay, so we are obliged to make the fast between Maghrib and Fajr. So meaning we begin the fast with the adhan of Fajr, with the call to prayer, right, in the next morning. Yeah, and some people, there's a misconception, a popular misconception apparently, that it's okay to, if you happen to be having a pre-dawn meal, your suhoor, right, your breakfast before fasting, and you happen to have a glass of water in your hand, for example, when the adhan is called, when the call to prayer is you can hear, you know, and the time for subuh has therefore arrived, that it's okay. Some people think it's okay to finish what's in your hand or what happens to be in your mouth. Okay, and that the fast is not nullified by doing that. Okay, it is wrong. That is misconception. Okay, and people who spread that will be responsible for people acting on the information that they provide. If you drink that final glass of water after the adhan has come in, your fast is nullified. Right? You have done something that breaks your fast. Right? There's no permission. Okay, there's no scenario where there's a permission for you to finish the glass of water that's in your hand. Okay, so that's regards the first condition of the intention. It has to be made at a certain time, right, from Maghrib to Fajr. Secondly, one has to specify the fast that one intends, the obligatory fast that one intends. So if one intends to fast Ramadan, now itu sama ghadin, right? It slipped me. I intend to fast for Ramadan tomorrow, for example. Okay, or if it's a qada fast, then one has to specify that it's a make-up fast. Okay, so the kind of fast must be specified. Okay, this is a condition. Otherwise, the intention is not valid. If the intention is not valid, then the fast also is not valid. Okay, but of course, again, the intention is, as we covered quite in a quite prolonged or in-depth fashion, with the conditions of validity of intention, to say the intention, to utter the intention, and so on, is sunnah. But the intention, the place of the intention is in the heart. So the intention is effective. Some of the scholars say the intention is effective even if you don't say it out, okay, or specifically make the intention, expressly make the intention in your heart. Right? It is borne out. The intention, the evidence, the intention is evidenced and borne out by your actions, right, around the fast, okay, relative to the fast. So if one leaves things, right, with regards to Ramadan or the fasting in mind, right, the Ramadan fast or fasting in general in mind, then that is sufficient. Okay? So for example, one has or does things. Yeah? So for example, one has the pre-dawn meal as the suhoor, or stops drinking a while before the adhan, the call to prayer for of fajr, right? Thinking or having in mind that the fast is about to start, so that is sufficient. It indexes one's intention to fast sufficiently, okay, in lieu of making an actual intention in your heart. So the idea, I suppose, is if one actually forgets to make the intention, okay, and then one wonders whether one is fasting or not, whether one's fast is valid or not, and if it comes down to intention, then this clarifies that question. Okay, it answers that question. Okay, it's also sunnah to leave leave everything that nullifies one's intention the night before, from the night before. So if one makes intention, if I make my intention after Maghrib, for example, then it's sunnah to leave eating, drinking, things that nullify the intention after one has made the intention. And it's sunnah to repeat the intention in the morning if after making the intention initially after Maghrib, for example, after that one maybe has relations with one's wife, and then jima' is one of the things that nullifies the intention, and therefore it's sunnah to make the intention again before the fast in the morning. Okay, except that you should note that it is sunnah. The intention is still valid, right? This is a sunnah. And in Ramadan, is even for the Shafi'is, it is a sunnah for us to intend also to fast for the whole month. Okay, so according to the Shafi'i madhab, we are not allowed, we are required rather to make the intention every night. Okay, a daily intention, as Habib Ahmad Manzin says here, a daily intention during the preceding night. This is what is required in the Shafi'i madhab. But according to Imam Malik, so his madhab allows for us to make the intention from just before Ramadan, the Maghrib, the eve of Ramadan, to intend to fast the whole month. Yes, so it is sunnah for us also to make that intention. In the event that we forget to make the intention at some point, at least then we are covered under Imam Malik's position. Okay, although if one wants to be circumspect and careful, and I think it's a highly virtuous thing to, in the event that one forgets to fast and one has already made the intention under Imam Malik's madhab, that one still makes a qada, because according to under Imam Shafi'i's madhab, the Shafi'i madhab, one has missed the fast for which one has not intended. Okay, but the benefits of making taqlid and following, making an additional intention, not only making the daily intention, of course, because according to the Shafi'i madhab we have to make the daily intention, but also at the start of the month making an intention for the whole month, following the madhab of Imam Malik. One of the benefits of this is that, as I said, if one forgets, for example, one's fast is valid according to that madhab, according to his madhab. And if in the event one passes away midway through Ramadan, for example, then because one has made the intention for the whole month, one is rewarded for the whole month, right? Despite not fasting the rest of the other half of the month. So may Allah bless and reward our scholars. Okay. Secondly, so that's with regards to obligatory fasts. With regards to supererogatory fasts or sunnah fasts, for example, this coming fast of Tasu'ah and Ashura on the 9th and 10th of Muharram, which might be Wednesday and Thursday, or Thursday and Friday, depending on where you are. Okay, so for the sunnah fast, for example, these 2 days coming up, and the 6 days of Shawwal, and the Monday and Thursday fasts, and so on. Okay, it is permissible to intend in the day with 2 conditions. In the day meaning after Fajr has entered all the way until Dhuhr time, just before Dhuhr time. Yeah? So there are 2 conditions for the intention to be valid. In the day, meaning not after Fajr and before Dhuhr. So some scholars say that Okay, I think it was cut off again. Something wrong with the internet where I am. They're quite. It seems that it's okay now. Okay, so I'm not sure what was missed, but basically most of what was on the screen is clear enough, I hope. Okay, so we move on to the next part of the text. والإمساك عن المفطرات من الطعام والشراب والجماع والاستمناء بمباشرة والاستقاء بالاختيار. Okay, then so the second part of the second integral of the fast. So the first was the intention, as we covered already, and the second integral is abstinence from all things that nullify one's fast. Okay, so here Ahmad Menzin has divided or structured the chapter on fasting into a definition, right? And then he goes into the integrals of the fast, and then he goes into things that nullify the fast. Yeah, and then he touches a bit on the sunnahs and the makruh, disliked things during the fast. So here he's talking about things that nullify the fast technically, meaning if one does these things, one nullifies the fast becomes invalid, and one has to make it up. One has to abstain from any further activities or actions that nullify the fast, like continuing to eat or drink and so on, and one also has to make up the fast. Okay, so but technically the fast is invalidated. Okay, but then after this he goes on to the part, okay, or he covers things that are related to virtue or ethics. Okay, akhlaq matters which do not nullify the fast in terms of its being valid, but for all intents and purposes, in terms of a reward or in terms of a fast that seeks to draw, or through which one seeks to draw closer to Allah, it is null, because the reward of the fast is completely forfeit because of certain things that if one does certain things, okay, which Ahmad Menzin lists out later in the text. Inshallah we'll cover that, we'll go to that next week. Okay, so the second integral of fasting, so these are things that break the fast, literally, right? So one gets no reward, right? Nor does the fast count. One is obliged to, is wajib for one to qada, to make up the fast. So one has to abandon all things that break the fast, including food, drink, sexual intercourse, masturbation, and self-induced vomiting. Okay, so when it comes to food and drink, we're talking about any substance basically that reaches a body cavity through an open passageway. When we're talking about substance, we're not including, what is excluded is, right, or excluded by the term substance, is air, odors, smells, taste. Okay, so as long as it's not a substance, so if one cooks, for example, for iftar, for the breakfast, one is cooking and one wants to make sure the food is tastes well, tastes right, and one puts a bit on one's tongue, right, puts a bit of the food on one's tongue to taste, and then washes it out. After getting the taste of it, one does not then swallow any food or any saliva mixed with the food, the saliva that tastes of that food. Okay, so just for tasting, as long as no substance enters into the cavity or enters into goes down our throats, then one has not nullified the fast. Okay, but as soon as there is any substance that nullifies the throat, then that goes down into the throat, or in fact any other, as long as it's a substance rather, and not just air, okay, or taste, then this nullifies the fast. Okay, second it must reach the body cavity through an open passageway, okay, i.e. not a closed route. Okay, so the open passageway includes the nose, the ear, nipples, or the urethra, right, for the male, right, the opening of the urethra. Okay, these are included as open passageways, right? And it excluded by open passageway is anything else. Yeah, so every passageway is open, okay, in the madhab, except for the eyes, right, according to the Shafi'i madhab. And Imam Ghazali also holds that the ears, he considers the ears to be also closed, to be a closed passage, to be a closed route, okay, to the body cavity. Everything else is considered open. Okay, finally, what do we mean by body cavity, right? When we talk about body cavity, we're talking about parts that are considered to absorb nutrition or medication. Okay, so in the case of nutrition, it's the stomach area, the digestive system, and in case of medication, we're referring to the brain, for example. Okay, so if food and drink includes any substance, not just food and drinks literally, okay, it includes any substance that reaches a body cavity, okay, those specific parts we mentioned, parts related to nutrition or medication, right, through an open passageway, okay, which is every passageway except for the eyes and the ears, according to Imam Ghazali. Okay, so an open passageway, of course, does not include the pores of one's skin, for example. So that's not considered an open passageway. Okay, so if one were to put perfume on the skin, or spray, right, then that is not considered, the pores are not considered an open passageway, and therefore that does not break one's fast. Okay, if the substance of the perfume were to reach the body cavity, because it reached the body cavity through a passageway that is not considered open, right, the pores, i.e. Okay, so the other thing that nullifies the fast is sexual intercourse, the insertion of the penis into the vagina, the head of the penis fully into the vagina. Okay, this nullifies the fast if done knowingly, i.e. knowing the ruling, right, voluntarily, i.e. not forced, and intentionally, okay, by choice. So in this case, there is an expiation to be made in the event that one does this, one nullifies one's fast this way during Ramadan, right, is a major sin. Okay, so there's an expiation to be made, and I'm not going to go into that in detail, okay, except that it's a serious sin. So the expiation involves, first of all, one has to, if this happens, right, with those conditions, if done knowingly, right, voluntarily and intentionally, if this happens, then one has to make the expiation. Okay, and it's the man who has to make the expiation, not the woman who was made love to. Yeah, and if it's done on more than one day during Ramadan, for each day one has to make the expiation. Yeah, and it involves freeing a sound slave, and if one cannot do that, then one has to feed, one has to fast the days of 2 full months, okay, and so on. Okay, basically try to avoid this, and some of the scholars or rather it is a very serious sin. Okay, the only excusable ignorance is, as I mentioned before, excusable ignorance is ignorance on the part of someone who has either recently converted to Islam, so this person's ignorance is excusable, or someone who lives in a remote area far away from many scholars, right, and therefore has no access, or it's very difficult to get access to religious scholars. And this is not something practical today because of the age of the internet, yeah, except in the certain times where people where the internet is misbehaving. Okay. So thirdly masturbation, in the knowledge that one will climax. Okay, this again the caveats apply, right? Done knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally. Okay, fourthly, self-induced vomiting. Okay, and even if it's just a little bit that comes out from one's throat, and whether or not the vomitus, i.e. the thing that was vomited out, it's called vomitus, right? Whether or not the vomitus, after being vomited out, whatever past the point of exit, they went back in. Okay, because if it went back in, then that would nullify the fast under the first condition, or rather the first thing that nullifies the fast, right? Any substance reaching the body cavity through an open passageway. So that's is regardless. The point is, as long as vomitus comes out past a certain point, then it is considered to have broken the fast if done intentionally. Okay, so if one vomits unintentionally or because one is nauseous, right, then that does not nullify the fast. One's fast is still valid and one should continue fasting. Okay, so vomitus here, we're talking about anything edible that passes out of the throat, okay, of the into the zahir, the external area of the mouth. Okay, meaning that maybe from the gullet, from the Adam's apple or gullet, upwards to the lips, from the Adam's apple, gullet to the lips, to that area. Okay, so the scholars, they usually designate it as the makhraj of ha, right, where we say ha, where the sound comes from. Okay, the sound of ha, where it comes from. So at that point, okay, so anything passes beyond that point, right, from the stomach or from the windpipe or from the esophagus, goes beyond that point, that is considered to have reached the limit where it has become vomitous. Okay, so if it goes out past that point, right, and even if it's water, okay, even if it tastes and even if the taste of the thing and the color is the same, okay, so anything edible passing out beyond that point, even if liquid, even if it tastes, if still intact, the way it went in, it came out, once it's still considered vomitous. So the one who vomits intentionally, okay, induced it oneself, and then that nullifies the fast, even if it's a little bit, right? But if it's not done intentionally, if it's because of nausea or whatever reason, okay, but without any intention, then the fast is not invalidated, it's not nullified, right? And the ruling for this person is that the ruling on the vomitous, ruling of vomitous, is that it is najis, it is impure, it's filth. So for the person who vomited, it is obligatory for that person to rinse their mouth, right, even excessively, right, meaning to get a lot of water in all the way to that makhraj earlier, that point, right, of the gullet. Okay. So one has to get in a lot of water to make sure that all the vomitous that is still in the mouth is washed out, right, because it is an obligation to purify oneself of najis, of impurities, to wash out impurities. So because one is acting on this obligation, even if a little bit of water unintentionally goes past the limit, i.e. enters into the body cavity, even if a little bit of water unintentionally passes into or down the throat, it's okay. As long as there was no intention to drink the water. Okay, so these are the things that nullify the fast technically, right? Meaning the fast is nullified, there is no reward, and the fast also is nullified, i.e. The fast remains owing for the person, so the person has to make a make-up of the fast. Next week, inshallah, we'll cover the rest of the chapter. We go into things that make one lose the reward of the fast. Although the fast itself does not need to be made up, there's no need for a make-up fast, but the rewards are all gone if one does the things that we'll talk about next week, inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, wa ala niyatil futuh al munuh al rusukh salah al jasadi wal ruh wa nasuh. حضرة النبي سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم على محمد وسلم الفاتحة.
يا ربنا اعترفنا بأننا اقترفنا وأننا أسرفنا على لظى أشرفنا فضلا وجودا منا لا باكتساب منا بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول.